As businesses continue counting the cost and damages caused by last week's violent unrest, insurance companies have been flooded with damage and social unrest claims that could see the largest payout in a democratic South Africa, amounting to billions of rands. Meanwhile, the South African Special Risk Insurance Association, that's SASRIA, a state-owned company that provides insurance, has assured its clients that it is working with insurance companies committed and ready to honour claims brought by affected businesses. Well, to give us more information on the work being done by SASRIA, we are joined by Cedric Masondo, who's SASRIA's Managing Director. Cedric, thanks. Thanks so much for being with us here on the programme.
Good morning, and thank you for having me in your program.
So we know that SASRIA provides special risk insurance to government and institutions, including the likes of schools, municipalities, hospitals. Let's now have a look at your role in assisting businesses affected by the recent unrests of looting and property damage.
So our biggest client is mainly corporate and commercial clients, and municipality, of course, but our biggest clients will be people that were affected by the looting in KZN and Gauteng, both businesses, small businesses, big businesses. So that's the role that we play and that we've been playing since 1979.
Right. So how is SASRIA actually different from other insurance companies, just so that we understand where you fall into the picture?
Yeah, since 1979, insurance companies decided that they were no longer prepared to underwrite this risk, which is the special risk damages caused by political riots or even civil commotion. And that's how SASRIA was formed. Today, SASRIA works in hand with all insurance companies, and we offer this special risk as part of the normal insurance that the client will normally cover. So the clients will go and buy a fire cover or a motor cover, and then this cover will be included. But of course, the client will have to decide whether they want to include this cover or not.
So in a nutshell, in events that we saw unfolding last week, and a few days prior to the beginning of last week, basically now falls in your domain. So this is where you come in to help companies and to cover or provide costs where people are covered by you.
Definitely, provided they get by SASRIA. So that's a big condition. So we work like a normal insurance company. You have to buy SASRIA, pay premium, and then we will honor those claims.
When we look at companies, the kind of companies that do buy cover from SASRIA, do small companies generally come to you, or do you find that it is mostly the bigger companies that actually come? Obviously, this is something that they need very, very much so.
So, of course, big companies, because they have brokers and they have people that can help them with insurance help. Most of them do buy SASRIA cover. But what we find sad is that small businesses, especially in the township, they don't buy SASRIA. But I'm sure some of the businesses that were affected do have SASRIA policies.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Now that we know where SASRIA falls into the picture, let's now talk numbers, because this is a very big moment, and I'm not sure. In fact, when was the last time that you've had to pay out costs that have involved the kind of events that we saw taking place last week?
I don't think, Leanne, we've ever came close to this amount that we're talking about. But we've had, we were formed in 1979, and we've had events, maybe not similar to this one, but we've never talked about these billions in our claims. So this is the first time for us.
And this is bringing a lot of questions now, because many companies and people are very worried that SASRIA are not going to be able to cover the costs that we are seeing. I mean, let's as I say, talk numbers. How much money do you have in your coffers at this point in time?
So we of course we have our balance sheet, which is what we rely first in paying the claims. But on top of that, we also have reinsurance. So just give you the scenario. So by Wednesday last week, we're looking at claims between 3 and 7 billion, and those claims would have been easily absorbed within SASRIA's balance sheet and even with their insurers. But as we speak now, Leanne, we're now talking about anything between 10 and 20 billion. And a higher figure of 20 billion that will really causes problems in our balance sheet and insurance.
Yeah.
But we started on Thursday already to work with the shareholder to prepare for the worst case scenario. So the worst case scenario is if the claims, the legitimate claims, exceed our reserves and our insurance provisions.
Yeah, because looking at your balance sheet, 8.9 billion of total assets, total liabilities 1.9 billion. Is that a good enough picture? Because this was what was released as of the 31st of March 2020. So we're now waiting to see your 2021. I think in 2021 it was 9 billion. Is that the approximate amount that you're sitting on your balance sheet?
We had a good year last year, and so that we added another couple of 1 billion on top of what we had in the previous year. But the truth is that SASRIA, no one's got an unlimited balance sheet. Even the reinsurers don't have an unlimited balance sheet. So hence, that's why we started the discussion with the shareholder before we even received the numbers on Thursday to make sure that we are ready if we receive those claims in 6 months' time.
So there's a graphic doing the rounds at the moment, and you've either seen it or you haven't, and you can dispute it whether it's true or not. The South African Property Owners Association, it's a graphic doing the rounds. So a rough estimate of what they're talking about is basically showing that there could be 20 billion rand impact on just KwaZulu-Natal's GDP, but the impact on the national GDP, we're looking at close to 50 billion rand. That is just a rough estimate from what I'm reading from the South African Property Owners Association. Any truth to this? Any assessments that you have seen so far to the extent of damage to businesses?
So, Leanne, it's a little bit difficult because remember, SASRIA doesn't, if you didn't have SASRIA, you wouldn't be paying those claims, and probably those numbers will be included in those numbers. And secondly, SASRIA does not provide full value cover. Our limit is kept at 500 million. So it means that for most companies, especially the big companies, we will be paying maximum 500 million per client. And normally what the companies do, they buy an excess cover in the London market. So we are not the only one who will be paying these claims. For some insurers locally and also the London market will be contributing to those claims, which is in excess of SASRIA limits.
Yeah. So let's ask this question. Where are you going to find this money? Because whichever way we look at it, you do not have enough money in your coffers to cover the costs, because 9 billion is certainly not the costs that have been incurred in South Africa. It is much bigger than that. Have you approached Treasury?
Yes, we started that already on Thursday. And Treasury people have been working throughout just to find a solution. I think everyone from Treasury, even to the president, has got one intention, that SASRIA must honor these claims. And SASRIA, after this event, must also continue to exist. And then I don't even want to contemplate what would happen if we don't pay these claims. I mean, these are billions. These are small businesses that really need this money from SASRIA. So we have one intention, even with the regulator. We've had also discussion with them. So we have to honor this claim, and we must continue to exist after, because we are the only insurer that provides this cover.
When there has been some criticism thrown at SASRIA as well, saying that you perhaps did not plan well enough. I mean, I know it's very difficult to have had foresight into what we saw happening last week, but there were indications, particularly when we look at what was going on the roads, and particularly the attack on trucks that have been happening for quite some time now. Did this not bring about alarm bells for you to perhaps start, trying to find ways that you can mitigate what we have now seen happening?
Yeah, I've seen those criticisms, but it's very difficult for us not to plan, because we are a short-term insurance company, and we are regulated, and we are sorry, somebody's disturbing me. So we are highly regulated. We are required by law to have a plan to deal with 1 in 200 event. So we had a plan on how to mitigate these losses and so on. But what we didn't anticipate is the magnitude. I don't think anyone anticipated that there will be so much riots throughout the country. Throughout the province, and the security will really be overwhelmed. So that's what we couldn't anticipate. But just Leanne, the last thing that I want to add. So SASRIA, by last week Friday before this event, had 3 times capital requirement as required by the regulator.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the idea is that you are, as you say, I mean, you have short tail risks, and your promise basically would be to pay anybody that's been affected and does come through and claim within a year. I mean, this would cripple SASRIA. What are the contingency plans going forward?
So there's no way we have to look at SASRIA being recapitalized, and that's the only option. Of course, you're right, you're a short term, but some of the risk, to rebuild some of the mods can take years, but we definitely need to be recapitalized within 6 months if the worst case scenario materializes.
So can I ask you, in terms of companies that have already come forward to try and claim, what are the numbers looking like?
No, and the numbers are really small. I mean, as of yesterday, we just had about just under 1 billion new claims registered for the past 2 weeks, but this is really not closer to what we expect to receive, and so we expect the next 2 weeks, and we'll have a clear picture on the losses.
Yeah. Okay. So only 1 billion has so far. And I mean, that's not even a drop in the ocean, because we do know that companies are still assessing the costs and are trying to come to terms with how negatively impacted they actually have done. So the idea as well is that a lot of the police, law enforcement agencies have been coming in and trying to recover some of the stolen goods as well, and including medicine, electrical equipment, and all of these things. Will this have any impact? I mean, if they manage to retrieve some of the goods that have been stolen, will this help in terms of claims?
So normally, I read the news that the police are going to destroy. So
yeah, I did too.
Still need to find out that's true. But normally, if in a case like this, the goods that have been destroyed becomes the salvage, and those claims normally help. That salvage help to reduce the claim amount. So of course, we just need to find the legality of what can be done, or is it legal for the police to just destroy properties which, in terms of insurance, it's our property as the insurer.
Yeah, another question that just jumped into my mind as well, thinking to ATMs. We were all seeing visuals of ATMs being blown up and cash just being taken out. Is this something that falls under your domain as well?
So, Leanne, I don't know, because that's a big question. I don't know whether ATM and money will be included, but we do cover properties, and so property and also the stock. But I will be really giving you the wrong answer if I include ATM. I have no idea. We've never experienced that.
Sure. You said you've been in conversation with National Treasury, and I do know that there is provision, and a last provision of going and digging into the National Reserve Fund, and that's something that I know the Treasury does not ever want to look at. But is it a possibility that Treasury may have to start digging into that fund?
I think it will be. I don't know what they're going to do, but the discussion we had and the agreement between us and National Treasury is that we must continue to pay claims, and we cannot allow SASRIA to collapse. And I think National Treasury's team are working on finding different solutions, because it is important for SASRIA to continue to pay claims, but it's also important for SASRIA to continue. So I think they are working on different options. They were working throughout the weekend trying to find the solution.
Yeah. You're also a member of the International Forum of Terrorism Risk. That is also a pool of reinforcement or reinsurance. Is that going to assist you? Have you reached out to the International Forum, and what cover do you have there? What help do you have from an organization like that?
Yeah, so it's not really a pool. It's just an organization of companies that provide terrorism cover. So it doesn't act as a pool or reinsurer. It's just members that writes this type of business. They meet together, they share ideas, and that's the whole idea of this organization. So we are dependent on reinsurers, which are our reinsurers that sit on our panel, but not on this one.
Yeah.
Of course, that fails, the government will have to come in.
So I'm reading now that there has been a green light. It's a report, I'm seeing it here on News 24, a green light that has been given for insurers to process claims under R1 million. Higher claims obviously are going to be delayed. Can you explain this to us? So have claims already started to be processed? Are you already looking at smaller companies to pay them out and assist them that are claiming under R1 million?
Yeah, since Monday, some insurance companies started paying those claims, and we will be reimbursing. So the whole idea was to help small business and give them cash immediately, and also to help with interim payment. So all insurance companies have been given this green light by us that they can start paying claims under R1 million, and then we're reimbursing them and working on how we can make sure that they have enough money in their own pool to pay these SASRIA claims.
All right. So just as a final closing note, I mean, this is just a very, very difficult time for businesses to continue, for operations to continue, and this also leaves a big question mark over the future of SASRIA. But are you confident that a plan will be made, that these payouts are going to be made? I mean, again, I want to put that graphic back up on screen, and I'm not sure if you've seen it. Perhaps, Cedric, we can get...
Yes.
Have you seen it? Is this a legitimate document?
Yes, I've seen it, Leanne, and my point still remains that these are gross estimates and these are not SASRIA claims. And SASRIA claims will be smaller amount than this one, mainly because we cover up to 500 million.
All right, let's leave it there. Cedric, thanks very much for your time and for giving us a little bit more clarity on where SASRIA comes into the picture. And this is Cedric Masondo, who is from the South African Special Risk Insurance Association, basically talking to us about the insurance claims that have been received after last week's unrest. So they're saying that they only have, as we stand right now, R1 billion worth of claims. That is a drop in the ocean, because if we look at the mounting and growing costs, there is some, I suppose, analysis saying this could be about R50 billion worth of claims in the pipeline, and that would collapse SASRIA. They cannot handle that. They only have R9 billion in their coffers.
I don't think it's unexpected. Not from the scenes that we witnessed. We knew it was going to be a biggie.
All right, we've got to leave it there, everyone. Thanks very, very much for watching.